I would love to hurt him and finish him and him out.
How was he punching? Was it hurting
Like
you?
a thunder. He punches like a mule kick. Unbelievable. Excuse my French, please. Oh, my God.
It's time!
You're listening to the Cage Nation TV Prizefight Podcast. Coming to you from the Coastal Cameron Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Are you ready?
Here's your host, the big fella, Albert Cameron.
Let's get it on!
My name's Albert Miller, and today on the Prizefight Podcast, I'm flying completely by the seat of my pants. Last night was a very big night in the night of combat sports. Jon Bones Jones reclaimed, nay, recaptured, nay, stormed Daniel D.C. Cormier to get that title back. Jon Bones Jones was first stripped of the title 2 years ago because of a felony hit and run arrest. Well, hopefully with legal and chemical problems behind him, Jon Bones Jones, the new reigning UFC light heavyweight champion, all hail King Jon Jones, light heavyweight champion, we're so happy. If you've been following Cage Nation TV, you know that we might not have the highest opinion of Jon Jones, but what we can't argue, what we cannot dispute, is that right now, because Jon Bones Jones is the UFC light heavyweight champion, that he is, by all proxies and measures, the best light heavyweight on planet Earth. I'm going to take some time and talk about it. Is he the best light heavyweight of all time? Big shoes to fill. This guy right here has always been a big fan of the Iceman, Chuck Liddell, always held him in extremely high regard as the best light heavyweight in all of planet Earth. But I think Jon Bones Jones may have dethroned him. And we're going to be talking about that today on the Prizefight Podcast. Adrian Broner drops a loss last night. Chris Cyborg Justino picks up a women's featherweight win. There's a lot going on in the world of combat sports. And again, I'm flying by the seat of my shorts here. All that and more right here on the Prizefight Podcast. Don't go nowhere. Hey everyone, while we're taking a break, we just want to remind you that right now we are looking for new people to join the Cage Nation TV roster of creators. We're looking for creators who have a fight circuit close to home, who have a sincere passion for combat sports, and would like to help us bring new territories to the forefront of our coverage. For more information, visit www.cagenationtv.com/opportunity/pioneer or send us an email at cagenationtv@gmail.com. Welcome back to the Prizefight Podcast. If you were just listening to that commercial break and you're thinking, wonder how cool it is to go out and cover fights. I wonder how awesome really is it to go out and write blogs and create videos for the sport that I say that I love more than anything. I wonder what it's like to go out there and just see fights happening live. I wonder what that's like. I can tell you from personal experience, it's really cool. It is pretty awesome. Okay, I've met some great promoters in my career, and I can tell you that they've been all upstanding guys. And to get to go to a regional fight and cover it and bring news to the masses, it's really cool. So if you're thinking you got it in you and you're thinking you want to be a part of the Pioneer program, you need to finish listening to this podcast in its entirety. And then you need to go shoot us an email at cagenationtv@gmail.com or however you want to get a hold of us and say, hey, I want the world to know about my fight scene. Big fella. That's how I want that to go down. Last night, Jon Jones able to recapture the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship from reigning champion Daniel D.C. Cormier. That bout resulted in Jon Jones as the Light Heavyweight Champion. Quite possibly the best Light Heavyweight Champion of all time. To date, we'll say. Because I remember a little while ago I said, I have a hard time saying of all time. I'm saying to date. Because when you think about who you can compare to, in the lineage of UFC Light Heavyweight Champions, we've got Frank Shamrock, Tito Ortiz, Randy Couture, Chuck the Iceman Liddell. Those are some pretty substantial names. But we also need to try to compare apples to apples to the best we possibly can. Jon Jones is fighting guys that are in a completely different caliber than what Randy Couture, what Chuck Liddell was fighting. When we think back on Chuck Liddell's career, and we think back of everything that man has done, we see things like the highlight reel knockout of Vernon Tiger White whenever he's on the backstep. We see Babalu Sobral getting kicked in the head so hard that he forgot what day of the week it was. The trilogy with Randy Couture, quite possibly one of the best fight trilogies of all time, if not certainly in the light heavyweight division. Tito Ortiz, completely dominating guys. But the quality of competition is a lot more stiff for a guy like Jon Jones than it was for those guys. And we at Cage Nation TV have never had anything real high to say about Jon Jones. I feel like that he really abused his public persona. I think that whenever he was doing things in the public, getting involved chemically, alcohol-wise, hitting someone with his car, those are things that happen to human beings, and we need to remember that Jon Jones is a human being. It's his personality, though, that is like salt in the wound to me. He's in the middle of the cage giving the DX suck it crotch chop. That's a whole lot of fun. But he's trying to sell tickets, and people pay money for a Jon Jones pay-per-view. Jon Jones did some things that were a little out of control, but Jon Jones is still human, and he deserves the opportunity to come back and make a better Jon Jones than what he had before. What cannot be disputed by things like, chemical incidents is that he has results in the octagon. And that's what it really comes down to. He has results in the octagon. Let's just take a look at his record real quick. Decision victory over Daniel Cormier. Decision over Glover Teixeira. Decision over Alexander Gustafsson. He knocked out Chael Sonnen. Submitted Vitor Belfort, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Submitted Lyoto Machida. Okay, submitted Quentin Rampage Jackson. I'm throwing out some pretty big names right now. And if you look at the UFC light heavyweight rankings, right behind Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier is Alexander Gustafsson, Glover Teixeira, Jimmy Manuwa, Mauricio Shogun Rua. Like, these guys still matter. And they're big names right now. Jon Jones competes in a time where the light heavyweight division is a lot more stacked than it was during the day of Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell. Now again, I've spent the longest time believing that Chuck Liddell is the greatest light heavyweight of all time. But when you look back on Chuck Liddell's career, there was a point where Jeremy Horn was challenging for the UFC light heavyweight championship. And I love Jeremy Horn. I think he's a great guy who's done great things for the sport. But whenever Chuck Liddell fought Jeremy Horn, was Jeremy Horn a contender up to that point? And I get the angle. Jeremy Horn was Chuck Liddell's first UFC loss, and he needed to avenge that. But was right then at that moment a great time to promote that fight because Jeremy Horn was a contender or because they were having a hard time finding Chuck Liddell guys to fight? Fast forward 10 years, and now Jon Jones has his pick of the litter. The UFC light heavyweight division is so stacked right now. So when you compare apples to apples, the quality of competition that Jon Jones has been fighting is a lot higher than the quality of competition that Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell fought under. It's the sign of the times. As much as I want to continue believing that Chuck Liddell is the best light heavyweight of all time, he did not have the quality of competition that Jon Jones has right now. So with that being said, Jon Jones only has one loss on his record. I mean, they're saying that it was a disqualification loss to Matt Hamill, but as a DQ loss, did Matt Hamill beat Jon Jones, or did Jon Jones beat Jon Jones? We all remember the story about Rashad Evans feeling like Jon Jones disrespected him because he got the title shot, and he didn't against Shogun. And when he beat Shogun, there was one title defense, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 unanswered title fights. Up until 2015 happened and Jon Jones was stripped of the title. 8 unanswered title fights. The point I'm trying to make is, Rob and I don't care for Jon Jones as a person, but the results are that Jon Jones is the greatest light heavyweight of all time, and I hate saying that. As great of a light heavyweight champion as Jon Jones is, apparently Mr. Jones has his eyes on heavyweight aspirations. Jon Jones says he would love to be a 2-division champion. And of course, he's not dropping to middleweight or welterweight. He's coming to light heavyweight. Brock Lesnar rose a lot of eyebrows this week by being reintroduced into the USDA drug testing pool. What's saying that he might actively be getting back into competition. Jon Jones wins the title. They start calling each other out because a little bit of chest beating. That's what happens, and that actually kind of hurt. I hope you guys appreciate my suffering for this podcast. But Jon Jones is thinking about fighting Brock Lesnar at light heavyweight, but kind of said he wouldn't fight Stipe Miocic because Stipe Miocic's a little too big. What? Stipe Miocic's too big? Brock Lesnar has to cut weight to get to heavyweight. Brock Lesnar is this mountain of muscle that has to cut weight to get below 265. Stipe Miocic does not. I'm pretty sure that as far as heavyweight's concerned, Stipe Miocic would probably be able to eat a sandwich while he's weighing in. A sandwich. And not even like a light one either. I'm talking like, pastrami, bacon, Mayonnaise, I bet Stipe Miocic could eat a sandwich when he's weighing in and still not be above 265. But Jon Jones is going to fight Brock Lesnar because they're calling each other out? Now, why does that make sense? Well, to quote Puff Daddy from back in the 90s, it's all about the Benjamins, baby. It's a money fight. Jon Jones stands to make a ton of money against Brock Lesnar for a money fight. And that's just what it is. If we think about a potential bout between Jon Jones and Brock Lesnar, we got to ask ourselves, what weight class is this going to be contested under? Well, it's not going to be a catchweight. Jon Jones Jon Jones could fight at heavyweight and he'd be kind of light. Brock Lesnar has to cut weight to get to heavyweight. But why? Why does this fight make sense? I mean, other than money. What benefit does Jon Jones think that he has over Brock Lesnar? Well, he does. He does have some biological benefits. I'm thinking immediately the length of his limbs, the dynamic shape of his form. Jon Jones has some of the benefits that I think Corey Hill has because he's so tall, because he's so lanky, that he would be able to pull off submissions and keep range in a way that Brock Lesnar couldn't. Even if Jon Jones's range is shorter than Brock Lesnar's, Brock Lesnar has a lot more ways to go to get inside Jon Jones's reach than what Jon Jones has to get inside Brock Lesnar's. The obvious strategy would be to stay away from Brock Lesnar's wrestling. Do not let him take you down. Stay away from the power. Don't let him bulldoze you, which is exactly what he's going to do. That's the style that Brock Lesnar fights under. Brock Lesnar is only, a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And what does he know outside of Jiu-Jitsu is wrestling. I mean, NCAA champion. I mean, a very, very big name in amateur wrestling. Jon Jones has to keep Brock Lesnar from bullying him and win and trying to hold him down and punch him in the face until he touches the back of his head. That's the strategy. I mean, I don't think there's any other sweetheart way to put it. Don't let Brock Lesnar get a hold of you. That is the strategy. If I were going to fight Brock Lesnar, it would be, listen here, tons of fun. Don't let Brock Lesnar keep you down. The UFC is a mess right now. And I don't think there's any other delicate way to put that. Jon Jones just reclaimed the UFC light heavyweight championship, and right now we're already talking about a super fight with Brock Lesnar. Why? It's the very same thing that's getting us in trouble with Conor McGregor doing whatever Conor McGregor is doing. Conor McGregor, UFC featherweight champion, did not defend that title once. Goes and fights Nate Diaz at welterweight, and then has a fight at lightweight, and he was the first ever dual champion at two divisions. And then he had to vacate the featherweight championship without ever defending it once. Okay, that's what irritates me. That Conor McGregor won the featherweight championship. The featherweight division became the redheaded stepchild that was regularly beat because Conor McGregor wanted to fight in every other division but the featherweight division. And he went off to compete at featherweight. And he's not even competing at lightweight anymore because he's boxing Floyd Mayweather Jr. Does anyone else see a problem with this? Jon Jones just reclaims the UFC light heavyweight championship after having been not champion for about 2 years because he couldn't keep stuff out of his nose or out of his hand. He hit someone, hopefully he's had some time to talk about his demons, but, he has a chance to finally turn him and his reputation around. Right now, what the UFC weight classes need is they need champions that are going to defend and compete in that division. If Jon Jones ever had any plan of competing at heavyweight, then he shouldn't have been fighting Daniel Cormier for a title. He should have came back against someone that would have tuned him up for a heavyweight fight. Jon Jones is the light heavyweight champion. So now the next fight we're talking about is against Brock Lesnar. What's that do to the UFC light heavyweight division? We're going to have another interim title fight. It's probably going to be DC versus Gustafsson. DC is going to get the interim title. Jon Jones is going to get in some trouble, get the title stripped. DC is going to be champion again. And guess what that brings us? It brings us right back full circle. Jon Jones is going to have to defeat DC to become the light heavyweight champion, and then the entire light heavyweight division is left without a champion or serious contendership for another couple months. That's exactly what's happening. As champion, Jon Jones has no obligation to fight any challengers. He has the obligation to fight contenders, though. Alexander Gustafsson, in my opinion, is the next one in line for a UFC light heavyweight title shot. Gustafsson was the one who was closest to beating Jon Jones, so by social convention, Jon Jones owes it to Alexander Gustafsson to focus on the UFC light heavyweight division, answer challenges from contenders, and when, and only when, he has exhausted every contender. Like whenever Chuck Liddell was fighting Jeremy Horn because we have no idea who to promote him against. That's when you look for a super fight against a Brock Lesnar. That's when you look for a super fight against a Stipe Miocic. Whenever Chuck Liddell was fighting Jeremy Horn, Chuck Liddell probably should have been looking for a super fight. Maybe a fight against Arlovsky, Andre Arlovsky and Chuck Liddell in their prime would have been an incredible super fight, because at the time when those both were top at the competition, their divisions were kind of thin. That's when we need to talk about blurring the lines about heavyweight and light heavyweight. Right now, Jon Jones is the brand new UFC light heavyweight champion. The king is back. By proxy, he is the best light heavyweight on planet Earth because the UFC attracts the top talent in the world. Mark Jericho is going to be fighting on Dana White's Contender Series. He's not fighting on the Bellator Contender Series because it is the best competitions in the UFC, and that's where the best talent goes, because the competition is there. Right now, because Jon Jones is bested the best light heavyweight, he is the best light heavyweight in the world until someone can come and prove us wrong. Or until Risen Fighting Federation or Bellator proves that their light heavyweight division's better. Then we're going to talk about who's the best in the world. But right now, by all convention, all proxy, Jon Jones is the best light heavyweight on planet Earth. And in my humble opinion, yes, we have no business to be talking about a fight with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar has enough trouble, okay? That fight with Mark Hunt completely soured everybody against it. I'm pretty sure Mark Hunt is still going to be suing him. And then he went back to the WWE. If you're going to compete for the WWE, compete for the WWE. If you want to be a UFC fighter, be a UFC fighter. But it is causing confusion and hysteria and panic and rage in this guy because, well, he's back in the USDA testing pool. Maybe he's coming back. Who gives a fuzzy rat's ass? If he's going to fight, he's going to fight. Announce it, and let's not kind of sugarfoot around it. Yeah, him being on UFC 200 as a one-off is fine. He was on UFC 100. He was a former UFC heavyweight champion who beat quality opponents. Okay, yes, let's honor the man. But we're not going to play the cat and mouse game of is he competing or is he not competing because, his storyline contract negotiations with the WWE aren't going well. Okay, don't use the UFC, which is legitimate combat sports competition, as a negotiating chip against a predetermined combat sports competition. It doesn't work that way. And the fact that we're even entertaining this conversation pisses me off just slightly. Just slightly, everybody. But when the dust settles, the smoke clears. Jon Jones is the UFC light heavyweight champion. The king is back. It's going to change the pecking order a little bit. I think Gustafsson is next in line. You guys might disagree with me. He's looking for a money fight with Lesnar, and that's really what it is. I mean, if he's saying Stipe Miocic's too big, Lesnar must be carrying around big sacks of cash, because that's what Jon Jones is looking for. To close out the Prizefight podcast, I've decided to bring a special guest on. His name is Coach Harold, and Coach Harold's going to be calling all the way in from his wrestling room in some undisclosed competition. Coach Harold got a hold of us and said, hey, fellas, I'm kind of angry. I want to get some stuff off my chest, and I was hoping to do so on your podcast. So to close out the Prizefight podcast, Coach Harold is going to be calling in from his wrestling room to talk about what he thinks about the Jon Jones situation. So, Coach Harold, let's take it out.
Well, thank you there, you big sack of crap. This is Coach Harold, and I just wanted to give you a call and say that I think Johnny Bones Jones is going to be the greatest light heavyweight champion of all time, and I don't care what you say. Now, I'm here in my wrestling room, okay, where I'm about to beat the crap out of a bunch of pansies, okay, for not wrestling, not giving their heart and digging the raw, and I'm going to put up big posters of Johnny Bones Jones all over the place, because Johnny Bones Jones knows how to go in there and get it done. Now, Daniel Cormier did not able to pull off a W, and that's fine. But Johnny Bones Jones has been saying for months now, I'm coming to get you. And he came and got it. Okay, now Johnny Bones Jones may have gotten in some trouble. Okay, did a little bit of nose candy, got behind the wheel of a car. That's dangerous as all get out. But Johnny Bones Jones is a winner, and winners get to do what winners want to do. Now, you can sit there and say, oh, hey, I'm the big fella with my big gun, you're ball of buddies, and say, I don't like Johnny Bones Jones, but guess what? It doesn't matter, because Johnny Bones Jones is a winner, and winners get to do what winners want to do. That's why all my wrestlers who come down to the Coach Harold House of Pain, the wrestling room, they're winners. They get it done. I'll talk to y'all next week on the Prizefight podcast. This has been Coach Harold, and winners get to do what winners want to do.
Well, all of us here at Cage Nation TV would like to put out there that Coach Harold doesn't speak for all of us parents and affiliates. Cocaine is bad. You shouldn't get behind the wheel of a car if you were intoxicated. Until next time, everybody, fights, Cameron, action.
Thank you for tuning in to the Cage Nation Prize Fight Podcast. All rights reserved 2016 to 2017 Planet Aries Sports. The Prize Fight Podcast is part of the Cage Nation Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.cagenationtv.com.